Hello, YouTube. Luigi here. It's like 3:20 in the morning on the morning of the 16th of October 2015. Oh man, my sleep habits are so crazy lately. I probably went to sleep around midnight, and now I've been up for a while, and then I'll go back to sleep. And that's how it's been. So bear with me. You're looking at a painting by William Blake, one of my favorite artist. He was 18th century British. He was a poet and a painter, and his paintings evolve around very mystical, religious, or spiritual themes. Now, we're not going to do a study of William Blake here. I'm just going to introduce you to two or three pieces quickly, leading up to a comparison between one of his engravings, done in 1793, to that of a contemporary American artist, Barbara Kanter, whom I also know as wife number one. So I'm going to take you through William Blake so you get a sense of the sort of flavor of the work he did. This is a piece of his called The Ancients of Days. The Ancients of Days. Now this term, Ancients of Days, excuse me, appears in the Bible. But if you really want to read in great detail about the Ancients of Days, there's only 21 of them in creation, in all of creation. Then you should read the Urantia book. There's an awful lot about this particular order of being. They are administrators of the highest order. All right, Ancients of Days. Here we are up in the clouds, and he's got his hands out here with what? What is this? It's a right angle. This is square. It's not unlike some of the Masonic symbols. You know, the square and the compass? Look at that. Okay, the Ancients of Days. This one is called Satan Exalting over Eve. And you see the serpent entwined around the body of Eve lying down. And in this hand, you see the apple. Satan exalting over Eve. But who's this guy? Well, it has a spear, and it has wings. And I think this is Michael the Archangel, who was sent to slay the dragon, as it were, or kill the snake. That's just my own interpretation here. Your mileage may vary, and that's entirely welcome. This is called the soul hovering over the body, reluctantly parting with life. So here's obviously an older body, like someone died of natural causes in old age. Here's the soul rising out of it. See the open window here, going through the window and ascending up to heaven. But there's a reluctance here, maybe because this person died young, or didn't have a full life, or didn't get to achieve every single thing he or she wanted to. The gender is ambiguous to me right now, but the soul definitely looks feminine. Okay? So you get a sense of the sort of mystical, spiritual themes that Blake works in. It's one of the reasons I enjoy his work so much. This is the piece we're going to talk about at length. Well, I don't know how long, but this is an engraving of his done in 1793. It has no real title except for this caption. It says, "At length for hatching ripe, he breaks the shell." Now remember, the guy's a poet, and if that sounds like the way a poet would write something, maybe it's a excerpt from a longer poem. At length for hatching ripe, he breaks from the shell. What do we see here? We see this cherub floating up in the sky. These are definitely like clouds. Maybe, and these horizontal hatching lines here, maybe that's the sea or the ocean. And he's got his eyes up to heaven. And he's about to step out onto this thing, a floating iceberg. I don't know what it is, but you can see some fragments of shell down here. At length for hatching ripe, he breaks the shell. Now I'm going to show you side by side this engraving along with a piece by, I shall keep you in suspense no longer, contemporary American artist Barbara Kanter. And this just, when I made this connection and connected these dots, it just blew me away. Here's the William Blake, 1791. Here's the Barbara Kanter on the right. Now, was Ms. Kanter aware of this piece? Maybe. Did she study this piece at school? Maybe. Did she pull this out of her head? Totally unaware, consciously at least, of the William Blake? Maybe. But here we see two remarkably close, this is a pen and ink for the Kanter, by the way, two remarkably close depictions of very, very similar subject matter. Here we have a cherub with wings, same little pudgy, naked, squeezable cherub as Blake's, coming out of what appears to be half of an eggshell. But the edges are not broken the way a chick would hatch out of a shell. The edges are pretty smooth, almost like it could be a spaceship or something. Down below you see a planet. You see continents and you see oceans. So this, I always interpreted that, this is the only piece of hers I have, by the way. I always interpreted this as this angelic personality is coming to Earth at a time of when the Earth needs some spiritual guidance here or something. This is an incarnation or a bestowal or something of this being coming to Earth. Now, let me tell you what Barbara does a lot, and I always thought this was interesting. If you look behind the wings, you see the silhouettes of many attendant beings. Particularly here, you see one more fleshed out. Here's a shoulder, and there's a head. But you also see the heads of many others. Now, she often put these ghost-like specter, I say spiritual beings because they're clearly not flesh and blood beings, but she often grouped these attendant beings, I would call them, behind the main character in her painting. And this gave the flesh and blood character in the painting a sense of divine protection or divine guidance, because it was attended by and looked after by a grouping of celestials that followed this person around. So that's really all I've got to say here, is how uncanny this is. The truth is, I think the Barbara Kanter, as much as I love the work of William Blake, I think the Barbara Kanter work has more going for it in terms of allegory. The cherub is coming out of an eggshell, maybe. This is clearly an eggshell. Hovering over a planet, you see the seas, you see the continents. This orb over here, this is the Earth's moon over here, with the wings about to descend onto Earth and become a spiritual minister to the planet, and yet the mission is looked over by these attendant spiritual beings in the background. All right, everybody, that's all I got to say. This gave me a chance to revisit some of wife number one's work. It's the only piece I have. And by the way, in case you want to see what she looked like in, say, 1984, this is the only picture I have of her. Okay, there she is. All right. Take good care, people. God bless you. I love you all. Bye-bye.